Hello, and welcome to Rise Up Nourish. Nourish is our holistic health and herbal medicine program. Today's lesson is an introduction to the holistic approach to health and an introduction to herbal medicine. The next time we meet, we'll discuss the science and practice of using food as medicine. And then we begin our journey through the body systems, addressing food, herbs, and wellness practices to support health and treat illness in each system. Our program also involves gardening. We'll be in the garden every month, growing herbs and an introduction to botany while we're at it. And we'll be making herbal medicine with the herbs that we grow, which will be a lot of fun. My name's Christina Tanner. I'm a certified nurse midwife and advanced practice nurse, and I've been working as a healthcare provider in Chicago for the past 18 years. I'm also a functional medicine practitioner, a certified herbal educator, and a certified yoga instructor. I'm a lifelong student of yoga, and with that, I'd like to say namaste. Some of you may be familiar with the word. It's a Sanskrit word, and it's also a greeting. In the same way that we say hello in English, people say namaste in India when they meet. There are a few interpretations of the word. One is the light in me bows to the light in you, which I love. And the other is the teacher in me bows to the teacher in you. And I think that's particularly appropriate for this program because while I'll be sharing information that I have with you, I also very much look forward to learning about your health practices and herbal traditions. Before we start, please make sure you have a notebook and a pen or pencil to jot down any notes or questions that you might have because we'll be discussing them at our upcoming Zoom meeting. In order to discuss herbal medicine, we first need to review two main types of healthcare philosophies, and you can see them over here in these columns in the green and the blue. I think we're all familiar with conventional medicine, which is also known as Western medicine. That's the blue column. The focus of conventional medicine is specifically treating symptoms and affected organs with techniques like pharmaceuticals, which are synthetic medications, surgery, and invasive procedures. Conventional medicine is excellent for certain types of illnesses that require surgery or strong medications, and it saved many lives. However, conventional medicine is not ideal for preventative care, which is healthcare that prevents illness in the first place, chronic illness, or nutrition guidance. Only 29% of medical schools offer recommended nutrition classes. This means that the majority of doctors finish medical school with little or no training in nutrition, which we know is a foundation of good health. The word holistic, you see holistic in the green, describes healthcare at the other end of the spectrum. Holistic healthcare addresses a person as a whole, their body, mind, and spirit. Is it possible for a conventional healthcare provider to practice holistically? Certainly. But in the Western model, providers are only given about 15 minutes to see a patient, and that makes it almost impossible to provide holistic care. This is why there are licensed functional and integrative providers who are conventionally trained healthcare providers with extra education in different types of holistic medicine. And you see a link here down at the bottom. If you want more information about functional medicine and integrative medicine, you can go to that website. Herbalists also use a holistic approach to health. So what is herbal medicine? Humans have been using herbs as medicine for thousands of years. The underlying philosophy of herbal medicine is that the body is essentially self-healing, and herbs can be used to help the body heal itself. The focus of herbal medicine, like other holistic practices, is the individual and not the disease. Herbalists look beneath symptoms to identify the underlying imbalance that caused the problem. You'll hear a lot about balance in this lesson. Experienced herbalists prescribe a way of life rather than a particular treatment for one symptom or disease. And illness is seen as an opportunity for growth in the herbal tradition. There's no shame in illness. This is an important point. If you're sick, it's not your fault. It's not because you did something wrong. In the herbal tradition, illness is seen as an opportunity to better understand yourself, your health, and your life. Herbalism is an art and a science. Herbalism is an ancient tradition with a scientific basis. There's a great deal of research that's been done on medicinal herbs, and later in the lesson I'll share some links to databases with you. I also have a number of textbooks with many published studies done on herbs, and if you'd like to borrow them from me, let me know. I'm happy to share. So if anybody tells you that herbal medicine is hocus pocus, you can be sure that they don't know anything about herbal medicine. And by the end of this program, you'll have lots of information to share with people also about the research that's been done on herbs. Scientifically, herbs are studied with the same methods that are used for pharmaceuticals, which are synthetic medications, as I mentioned. But it's important to understand that herbs are different from pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are specific chemicals that are either created in a laboratory or derived from plants and highly concentrated. Because of the way they're processed, they can take effect very quickly, but they can also have serious side effects and can sometimes cause fatal reactions. Herbs, on the other hand, are generally well tolerated and result in fewer side effects and reactions. To share some statistics, there was a study done in England from 2006 to 2008. And it's good to do studies that compare herbs and pharmaceuticals in Europe because Europeans use herbs a lot more often than we do. So 2006 to 2008 in England showed 284 adverse events with herbs reported compared to 26,129 adverse events with pharmaceuticals. And in the US, legally prescribed pharmaceuticals kill over 100,000 people a year. Now, the risks of pharmaceuticals are known, and they're only supposed to be prescribed when the benefit outweighs the risk, but there are serious risks. With herbs, when there are reactions or very rarely deaths, it's often related to drug-herb interactions, adulteration, or misuse of the herb. Excuse me. We will talk about adulteration a little bit later in this lesson too. So why are herbs generally safer? Well, one reason is that we've evolved with these plants, and they're both healing and nourishing for us. Herbs are both medicine and food. Another reason is that the medicinal effects of herbs are supported and balanced by all of the other constituents in the plant. Constituent is a term for the naturally occurring chemicals in herbs and foods. Scientists still have not been able to identify all of the natural chemicals that exist in herbs and foods, which limits our ability to understand exactly how they work and the many ways that they contribute to health and healing, but we can see the effects of herbs and healing foods when we use them. Herbal medicine is used to support the health of the whole person, so this requires getting to know ourselves and the people that we care for. When we look at ancient medical traditions still in use today, we see a great importance placed upon knowing the constitution of a client before creating a treatment plan. Here I have the definition of constitutional type. It's a person's inherited and acquired physical, mental, and emotional traits, personality, and temperament. All of this information, along with a health history and information on the person's current life circumstances, is used to create care plans with food, exercise, and herbal formulas. This is something I found on the internet. I thought it was interesting. It just gives you an idea of how many herbs there are that support different body systems. And we'll get into it. We'll learn about a number of these herbs during this program. So speaking of care plans, we want to be as sure as possible that we're creating an effective plan. In order to do this, we need to use evidence. So let's look at evidence-based practice. What is evidence in healthcare? Back when I was in graduate school, a long time ago, we were taught that evidence was the research, studies, and trials done on a therapy, and that was the end of the story. While this is true, we now know that scientific research is only part of the story. The expertise of the practitioner and the beliefs of the client are equally important in providing effective care. What is this up here? Sorry, I don't know how to get rid of that. While we always want to be sure that there's evidence that the lifestyle changes we're recommending work, it's also important to use our own experience as a guide once we have experience and ensure that what we're recommending aligns with the client's preferences. The placebo and nocebo effects are great examples of why this is important. There we go. Placebo and nocebo effects. So I have a definition here. Placebo is an inert substance or treatment which is designed to have no therapeutic value. Placebos are used in studies to see if the medication being tested really works. And to give an example, say you're treating a group of people who are dealing with moderate depression. You split 100 people into two groups of 50, And one group of 50, you give the new medication that you're testing to see if it works. And the other group of 50, you give them a pill that looks just like that medication, but it's really just pressed rice flour. And you see what the results are. Now, the placebo effect is a beneficial effect produced by a placebo drug or treatment that's attributed to the person's belief in the treatment. So within that study, if say 10, 20 or more of the people in the placebo group said, yes, I feel better, my depression is cured, then that would be the placebo effect because they're not taking the medication. So the placebo effect is a very real thing, and it's a beautiful thing. It's an example of the power of the mind to heal the body, and it's completely risk-free. So placebo effects are very much desired. But on the other side, there's nocebo effects, and they're pretty much the opposite. A nocebo effect is a detrimental effect produced by a placebo drug or treatment. And to give an example of a nocebo effect, let's say that you're dealing with some anxiety and you want treatment for it, but you don't want to take medicine. You don't like to take medicine. You've had bad experiences with medicine before, and you come to me and you say, hey, Christina, I'm dealing with some anxiety. Can you help me out with this? And I say, sure, here's a prescription, take this pill. Now, if I do that, it's unlikely that you're going to take the pill. And if you do, it's much more likely that you won't experience relief from anxiety, or that it'll be more likely that you'll experience unpleasant side effects. Right? This is a nocebo effect, that you actually have a bad experience from it. If I take the time to learn how you feel about taking medication instead I prescribe yoga and some gentle herbs for relaxation, you're much more likely to see improvement in your symptoms of anxiety. So you want to match the treatment to the person as much as you can. It's important. It's also interesting to note that many pharmaceuticals work through the placebo effect. Did you know that there are many large studies actually, that have shown that antidepressants don't work any better than placebo for most people? This is a quote that I really like from an Ayurvedic practitioner named David Frawley. Remedies produced with love may work wonders. Love is the true healing force. Herbs and other means are merely vehicles. I wanted to touch on a few global herbal traditions to give a little bit of background to how herbs have been used around the world. These are only two. There are many more herbal traditions than this, and I am really interested to hear any that you might know of. This first one is traditional Chinese medicine, known as TCM. TCM is an ancient medicine system that's still very much in use today, not only in China, but also in America and around the world. The basic concept is that when the vital life force is in balance, we're healthy. The vital life force in TCM is called Qi, and it's spelled Qi, and I don't know why. There are two energies that create Qi, and they're yin and yang, and you see them over on the side here. You may be familiar with yin and yang, or maybe even just the symbol, which is this here above, of yin and yang. Yin and yang are opposite and complementary energies. And you can see here, these are two lists of the different qualities of each kind of energy. So they're opposite, but they very much complement each other and need to stay in balance. When the energies are out of balance, that's when illness occurs. And there are other energetic concepts used for diagnosis also, over here in the black, where you see excess and deficiency, heat and cold, interior and exterior. These are also opposite energies that need to be kept in balance. So the TCM practitioner's job is to understand the client's constitution and prescribe ways to bring the energies back in balance when they come out of balance. And you can see a few examples of treatments: acupuncture, Tai Chi, herbs, and special foods. And to give you an idea of the importance of the balance of energies within a person, back over here to yin and yang, let's say you have a client who has too much yang. And too much yang is, the diagnosis in TCM is yin deficiency. So you see yang here, you see yang is hot, you see yang is fast, you see yang is energetic. If there's too much yang, that person is probably going to have difficulty sleeping, right? Because they get a lot of energy, a lot of heat. It's probably hard to fall asleep and stay asleep. And on the other side, we have yin. And you can see that yin is cold, it's slow, it's calm. And if somebody has too much yin, then that would be called Yang deficiency as a diagnosis. If you have too much yin, looking at this list of qualities, it'd probably be difficult to get out of bed as far as sleep goes. You'd have the opposite experience because you'd be so tired. You wouldn't have enough energy or heat. And it gets a little more complex. In TCM, there are 5 elements or constitutional types that aid in diagnosis and treatment. These are very brief descriptions, but just to give you an idea, there's wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. And to give an example of how identifying your constitution can be helpful, if you have a strong fire influence, that means that when you're in balance, you're energetic, you're creative, you're social. When you're out of balance, you may be prone to anxiety and insomnia. So a TCM practitioner knows what to do for a person who has a lot of fire influence to help them find balance again. And a few of the things that are done, it's recommended to eat extra dark leafy greens, to spend lots of time in nature taking walks, and to use herbs to support the nervous system, which we will learn about later in the program. And that would be done to help fire find balance again. Sometimes understanding your type can be comforting also. It can be reassuring to learn that there are energetic reasons for behavior imbalances that can be balanced. These are the 9 body constitution types. I just picked this up because I thought they were funny pictures. I talked about yin deficiency and yang deficiency. You can see here a person who's deficient in yang, which is hot, is going to feel really cold. And a person who's deficient in yin, which is cold, is going to feel really hot and sweaty. On to Ayurveda. This is Indian traditional medicine. Ayurveda means knowledge of life in Sanskrit, and it's the oldest healing tradition that we know. The focus of Ayurvedic care is prevention of illness by maintaining balance in life. There's that word again. Each person is recognized as having their own unique pattern of energy made up of physical, mental, and emotional characteristics. Balance of energy can be disrupted by a number of things like stress, food choices, and sometimes even the weather. The Ayurvedic practitioner uses herbs, foods, and practices like yoga, meditation, and massage to help their clients regain balance. There are 3 doshas that we're going to talk about, and sorry, this thing keeps popping up. I don't know how to make it go away yet. But at the bottom here, where you see it says kripalu.org, what's your dosha? You can take a free dosha quiz if you're curious and find out what your dosha is. So the 3 doshas are comprised of the 5 elements. Does that sound familiar? Yes, these 5 elements, some of them have different names, but they do correlate to the 5 elements in TCM. So the 5 elements in Ayurveda are called space and air, fire and water, and earth. And the 3 doshas are, each of them you can see have 2 of the 5 elements within Ayurveda. And they're used in the same way. You find somebody's dosha, and then you find out how that dosha is out of balance, and then you work on treating the balance. And usually people are one of the 3, but it is possible to be 2, to be mostly pitta, but some kapha. So it's vata, pitta, and kapha are the 3 doshas. There we go. I really like this graph. This is a graphic about how to take care of yourself in each season. And it also includes some tips on seasonal eating, which is really healthy for the body. And it's something that you're going to learn more about with May, who is going to be doing the gardening portion of our program. So it's spring, and you can see over there in the green, spring. The recommendation for good health is to stay dry and warm because spring is very wet and damp. To do spring cleaning, eat spicy foods, and engage in very invigorating exercise. And when we get to summer, on the right, the recommendation is to stay cool and hydrated, drinking lots of water, eating fruits and greens, and do light stretching exercises in the morning. When we get into fall is a time to center and get ready for the cold and dark months. So it's recommended to reduce stress and spend some time alone, practicing deep breathing. It's recommended also to eat soups and stews during that time. And then when we get to winter in the blue, Hydration, again, becomes important because the air is so dry in the winter. It's recommended to hydrate with hot water and herbal teas. Oil your nostrils and skin. I know it sounds weird, but wow, it makes a difference. You feel so much better in the winter when you do that. Keep your neck covered, also makes a big difference in health in the winter. Limit strenuous exercise, but do get some exercise. And add more healthy fat to your diet for grounding. And the most important question here, what is your herbal tradition? And I mean, it could be the herbal tradition that was given to you through your family. It could be an herbal tradition within your community. It could be an herbal tradition that you created yourself. And if you don't have one, we're going to talk about this at the Zoom meeting. You could just share whatever interests you about herbs. This is a quote from Lady Gaga. It's an introduction to the next topic that we have here, which is community and health. I've been searching for ways to heal myself, and I've found that kindness is the best way. Many studies show that connecting to other people improves physical and mental health and actually reduces the risk of heart disease. Loneliness, depression, and hopelessness increase the risk of heart disease more than type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, or smoking. So community is critical to good health. And how do we build community? Well, we're doing it right now, right? Nourish, this is a new community that we're creating. And Nourish is a community within a community, which is Rise Up Wellness. And I very much hope that you carry forward anything that you find useful from this program into your community. And we're going to talk about different events that we might plan together to bring this information into different communities in Chicago. So some simple ways that you can create community. Spend quality time with friends, family, or neighbors. Start or join a walking or cycling group, a book club, or a community garden. We are going to be spending time in community gardens during this program, and they oftentimes have plots free, so I highly recommend it. There is nothing more delicious than eating your own homegrown vegetables. Go to a yoga class or find a group that shares your favorite hobby. Now, I have to say here, yoga is the foundation of Rise Up Wellness. And it is important to, even if you don't do yoga, to understand yoga, have like some basis of experience with yoga. So if you've never taken one of our yoga classes, please do. We have classes every week. And we're actually going to be having more and more Zoom classes because of the current situation that we're in. We have classes every week. They're always free. And they are created for all levels of yogis. You don't have to have any experience at all with yoga to take one of our classes. Helping others is also improves health in many ways. And there's lots of ways to do that too. You can volunteer for any organization you like, or you could do something easier. You could pick up groceries for a neighbor who's sick, or spend time with an elder in the community who's alone. It's also a great way to get some really interesting stories. I love this quote. Your body is not a problem to be solved. That's Amber Carnes. She is an amazing yoga instructor. I want to talk about body positivity for a moment. If you hear me use the word diet during this program, know that I'm always referring to the foods that we eat to keep ourselves healthy and nourished. And I'm never talking about restrictive diets. I don't recommend dieting to my patients because diets don't work. Did you know that 95% of people who go on a restrictive diet gain the weight back within 1 to 5 years? Not only do they not work, they cause other problems in and of themselves. And I don't mean to imply that losing weight isn't beneficial for health in some situations. I'm just trying to say that restrictive diets and feeling bad about our bodies isn't the way to adjust our lifestyles to feel better and healthier. So what is this program about? Nourish is about holistic self-care for ourselves and for our communities. And these times when we're all so stressed and overwhelmed by the burdens of our economic system, self-care truly is a revolutionary act. I have an image here that I love, 50 ways to take a break. I highly recommend choosing 2 of these a day. Some of them only take a few minutes, and it really can make a difference in your experience of your day. This is important. When to see a healthcare provider. In every lesson, at the end of the lesson, I'll talk about situations and symptoms that require a visit with a healthcare provider. And I just want you to know, if there's ever any doubt, if there is some symptom that I don't mention, but you're suspicious, always err on the side of caution and get an evaluation from a licensed healthcare professional. Holistic and conventional practitioners need to work together. I have a list of resources here. For gardening, strictly medicinal seeds, if there's some weird seeds that you need to get a hold of and you can't find anywhere else, strictly medicinal is the way to go. I also have some information here about foraging. Now, foraging is when you collect herbs and vegetables in the wild. Now, we live in Chicago, so there's not a lot of wild, but one thing that you do need to know is if you're going to forage in Chicago, do research the soil quality in the area where you're going to forage before you do it. There are areas of Chicago where the soil is very polluted, and you're not going to want to eat any herbs or vegetables that are foraged from the ground. However, trees are generally safe for foraging because heavy metals don't reach the leaves. I have a list of reputable herbal supplement companies and reputable nutritional supplement companies. The difference is when I say nutritional supplements, I'm referring to vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and herbs, obviously are herbs. This is not an exhaustive list, so that means there are other supplement companies that are also reputable, and you're going to understand why it's important to know which companies are reputable in just a moment. But this is a list of resources for that. And where to find herbs and nutritional supplements online. Now, I love Vitacost, Vitacost.com, because they have many of these reputable companies at cheaper prices. You could register with a dispensary if you want to get like the biggest selection and the absolute best quality out there, but they can be more expensive. They are more expensive, not can be. Herbalist organizations, take a look at these websites, American Herbalist Guild and the American Botanical Council. I recommend signing up for the newsletter for the American Botanical Council because they regularly send out information about herbal adulterants, which we're going to learn about in a minute, and you'll want to know that. Also, if you go to their website here, herbalgram.org, you can get access to the German Commission E monographs. Now, I know that sounds like gobbledygook, and honestly, I'm still not completely sure what a monograph is, but what the German Commission E monographs are a list of all of the herbs that have been approved for use in Germany, along with their doses and indications and safety information. And the Germany monographs are used throughout Europe because, as I'd said, in Europe they use herbs a lot more than we do, and it's a very useful resource. And speaking of resources, Cochrane Library is another one. The Cochrane Library they provide meta-analyses and literature reviews. Now, a meta-analysis is when a group of researchers collect every study they can find on some topic. Let's say, does ginkgo biloba reduce the risk of strokes, right? And they will pull together everything they can find, and they'll analyze all of those studies. And then they'll come up with a recommendation that they'll say either, yes, ginkgo biloba does reduce the risk of strokes, or no, from what we can see, it doesn't, or we're not really sure, we need more information. And this is free and open to everyone. I also love the World Health Organization's website right here, WHO. You can get all kinds of interesting information, especially about the global antibiotic crisis on WHO. CDC is always a good resource. Mayo Clinic is a good resource for symptoms. Now, I don't recommend that you spend too much time researching symptoms online, or you will eventually come to the conclusion that you have every illness known to man. It's a common issue in medical school that as folks are going through medical school, every time you learn about a new disease, you think you have it, because so many symptoms are so common and vague. So I wouldn't spend too much time on it, but if you want to look up something, that's a good resource. EWG is a great resource. That stands for Environmental Working Group. Their website is amazing. It gives all kinds of information on safety for fruits and vegetables and foods in general, also household cleansers and health and beauty products, really good resource. And then Healthline, I like Healthline. I go to when I'm trying to just get a really general idea of an herb that I don't really know about. For example, before we put this program together, we gave out questionnaires to a number of you who are in this program, filled them out for us to ask what herbs you use regularly so we could be sure to include those herbs in this program. And one of you said that you use moringa. Thank you for sharing that, because I wasn't familiar with moringa, but I went to Healthline and bam, like 10 different pieces of information popped up about it. So I always start my research there just to get an idea of what people are using an herb for. And then I go deeper into research to find out if it's effective or not. And it seems that moringa is. Thank you, whoever suggested that. Here we go, herbal adulterants and third-party certifiers. So I had mentioned a couple of times adulteration. Adulteration is the presence of a substance that is not on the label of the product. In regard to herbs, it can involve the substitution of a similar herb with different pharmacological functions, the addition of other herbs, substances, or food coloring, or, as in the case of herbs found in many pharmacies in America, the complete substitution of the herb with powdered rice. This is the truth. It's the sad truth. The state of New York is suing Walgreens and CVS and a couple other pharmacies for selling bottles that are labeled with the names of herbs, like St. John's wort, black cohosh, ginkgo. And when they opened up the capsules and tested them in the lab, they were filled with powdered rice, or worse, sometimes they were filled with powdered wheat. And it said gluten-free on the label. So what's the moral of the story here is never buy your herbs or supplements from a pharmacy. That's why I gave you the list of the reputable companies. Also, over here, you can see these are third-party certification seals. When you see this, this certifies that the product in that bottle has been tested and it is what it says it is. It's good to know. However, if a company doesn't have these seals, it doesn't mean that their herbs are adulterated. It just means that they haven't been tested. Why would that be? Because getting these tests done is extremely expensive and not all herbal companies can afford it. But it doesn't mean that they have bad herbs if they don't have the label either, which again is why it's important to know which companies are reputable. And finally, this is a list of different herbal preparations for herbal medicines. May is going to go into this much more deeply with you, but I just wanted to give you a brief list that you could reference. I'm starting with the most well-known herbal preparation, which is an infusion. And what is an infusion? It is tea, literally. Herbal infusions are best used with leaves. And then we have decoctions, which are also teas, but they're better for hard or woody herbs. And with decoctions, the difference is you actually place the herb in a saucepan with water and boil it before you steep it, and then you strain it. Tinctures are a fabulous way to take herbs. I'm a big fan. And tincturing increases the shelf life of the herb by decades. It says years here, but literally decades. Tinctures last for a very, very long time. The important thing to know about tincturing is you need to have a jar that has an airtight lid, and you need to make sure that the herb is always completely covered in the alcohol, or else the herb can rot. Capsules. Capsules can be made, but I usually purchase them. I think it's easier. Just be sure there are some herbs that have to be freeze-dried before they're encapsulated, and nettles is a really good example. So check the label before you purchase or buy them. Baths and soaks are a great way to get herbs into your life, very relaxing, and there's some instructions for those. And herbal oils, there are essential oils and herb-infused oils. Now, essential oils are fantastic, but they're created by distillation, which is really complex. We're not going to be doing that during this program, but you can purchase them. Herb-infused oils, we will be doing that, and those are not hard to make. It's very similar to making a tincture. Ointments and salves, we will be making a salve. The base of salves are beeswax, and there's herbal oil added to it. Steams are honestly probably one of my favorite preparations. I recommend them all the time for my patients when they have upper respiratory infections, sinusitis, bronchitis, bad coughs, congestion. Eucalyptus steam, eucalyptus is my favorite oil to use for this, really helps break up congestion. It's fabulous. And you can sit in the steam 2 or 3 times a day for 15 or 20 minutes. The easiest way, I think, to do this is to just shake maybe 10 drops of eucalyptus oil. You could use other oils if you want to, but that's the one I like, onto a washcloth, and throw the washcloth in the bathtub underneath where the hot shower, the hot water is hitting the bathtub so that it's getting hit with water. Close all the doors and windows to the bathroom and let the bathroom fill up with steam. And then you can go in and breathe that eucalyptus steam as often as you want. You can also do it while you're taking a shower to make things quicker. It's really nice. If you decide that you're going to do a steam by putting hot water in a bowl, that's one way that some people do it, and putting your head over the bowl and draping a towel over your head. Please, please be careful that the steam is not too hot. You can get burns from steams when you do it that way. There are compresses, and to make a compress, you soak a clean cloth. Make sure it's a natural fiber like linen or cotton. You can soak it in a hot herbal infusion or a cold herbal infusion and apply it to the affected area. And lastly, poultices. Poultices are great, like in the moment, I think. They're really commonly used for bug bites. So say you're walking through the woods and a bug bites you and it's really itchy and irritated. If you see any plantain, which is a very common herb, which you will learn about in this too, you can just pick a leaf of it, chew it up, spit it out, and put it right on that bug bite. It will stop the itching and the burning and the irritation pretty quickly. It generally works really well. And that's it for this lesson. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you at our Zoom meeting coming up. It'll be a meet and greet. I can address any questions you might have. You can share ideas, comments, and we'll talk about the class policies and the schedule. Have a great day.